Are you aware that at its zenith, the British Empire covered about a quarter of the world's landmass? Picture this, an empire so vast that the sun never set on its dominions, spanning continents and shaping the course of history for centuries. In the history of the British Empire, we embark on a captivating journey through time, exploring the rise and fall of one of the most influential empires in human history. From the early colonial ventures to the height of imperial power, we delve into the forces that propelled Britain to become a global superpower. Beginning with the Age of Exploration, we uncover the ambitions and motivations that drove British explorers to chart new territories and establish overseas colonies. From the Americas to Africa, Asia, and beyond, we trace the expansion of British influence and the complex interactions with indigenous peoples and rival empires. As we navigate through key historical periods, such as the Industrial Revolution and the Age of Enlightenment, we unravel the economic, political, and cultural factors that fueled Britain's imperial ambitions, from the consolidation of territories to the spread of British institutions and values. We examine the multifaceted dimensions of empire building, but our exploration doesn't stop there. We also confront the darker chapters of imperialism, grappling with questions of exploitation, resistance, and the legacies of colonialism that continue to reverberate in the present day. With a keen eye for detail and a commitment to historical accuracy, the history of the British Empire offers readers a comprehensive and engaging account of a remarkable era in human history. Whether you're a seasoned scholar or a curious enthusiast, join us on this enlightening journey as we uncover the triumphs and tribulations of the British Empire. Setting sail, a quest for riches, roots, and revolution. The story of the vast British Empire begins not on land, but at sea. This chapter dives into the Age of Exploration, a thrilling era, when European nations set sail in search of riches, glory, and a complete revolution in world trade. The dawn of exploration, 1450 to 1550. Imagine a time before Google Maps, where the edges of the known world were shrouded in mystery. The 15th century witnessed a surge in European exploration, fueled by a confluence of factors: the rise of nation-states, stronger centralized governments in Europe, like England under the Tudors, had the resources and ambition to sponsor voyages of discovery. Advancements in shipbuilding. European shipbuilders developed more sophisticated vessels, like the caravel, capable of navigating long distances on the open sea. The fall of Constantinople, 1453. This event disrupted traditional trade routes with Asia, prompting Europeans to seek alternative routes to the lucrative spice trade. The myth of the accidental empire. Contrary to popular belief, Britain's foray into exploration wasn't accidental. Ambitious monarchs and merchants saw a chance to secure wealth and prestige by venturing beyond familiar waters. John Cabot and Francis Drake. John Cabot, 1450 to 1499. This Italian explorer, sponsored by England's King Henry VII, landed in Newfoundland in 1497, mistakenly believing he had reached Asia via a northwest passage. While his quest for a shortcut failed, Cabot's voyage sparked English claims to North America. Francis Drake, 1540 to 1596, nicknamed El Drac by the Spanish. This daring sailor was both privateer, government-sanctioned pirate, and explorer. Drake's circumnavigation of the globe 1577 to 1580 was a monumental feat, demonstrating English naval prowess and challenging Spanish dominance on the seas. The many motivations for exploration. The Age of Exploration wasn't just about finding gold and spices. Here's a glimpse into the diverse reasons that drove Europeans, including the British, to explore uncharted territories. The search for a Northwest Passage, a mythical waterway through North America that would provide a quicker trade route to Asia was a major motivator for many voyages. New trade routes. Europeans sought alternative routes to Asia after the fall of Constantinople disrupted traditional land-based trade routes. Resources and riches. Explorers hoped to discover new sources of valuable resources like timber, fish, and furs. Spreading Christianity. The desire to convert indigenous populations to Christianity was a significant factor for some European explorers. Scientific curiosity. The thirst for knowledge about the world's geography, flora, and fauna fueled the spirit of exploration. The age of exploration marked a turning point in world history. By venturing beyond the known, European nations, including Britain, set the stage for centuries of colonialism, cultural exchange, and the creation of a truly globalized world. Planting roots, seeds of empire in the Americas and the Caribbean. The age of exploration opened the door, and now Britain was ready to walk through. Here we explore the establishment of Britain's first colonies in North America and the Caribbean, highlighting the complex interplay of economic gain, religious fervor, and the harsh realities of encountering new cultures on foreign soil. Across the Atlantic, the founding of Jamestown and Plymouth 1607 to 1620. Jamestown 1607, the first permanent English settlement in North America, Jamestown, was established in Virginia. However, this initial attempt at colonization was marred by disease, starvation, and conflict with the local Powhatan Confederacy. While initially focused on finding gold, the colonists eventually turned to cultivating tobacco, a crop that would become a major source of wealth for the colony. Plymouth 1620. Seeking religious freedom, a group of English Puritans, known as the Separatists, set sail on the Mayflower, landing in present-day Massachusetts in 1620. Their harsh first winter, now immortalized in Thanksgiving traditions, was aided by the local Wampanoag people. The Pilgrims, unlike Jamestown, focused on subsistence farming and fishing to establish their colony. The allure of riches, economic drivers of colonization. Britain's motivations for establishing colonies were far from purely altruistic. Economic factors played a central role. Mercantilism, the prevailing economic theory of the time, emphasized accumulating wealth through trade and establishing a favorable balance of trade. Colonies provided raw materials like timber, furs, and tobacco, which could be exported back to Britain for profit. New markets. Colonies offered new markets for British manufactured goods, further boosting the economy. A refuge for the restless, religious freedom, and social mobility. While economic gain was crucial, religious and social factors also fueled colonization. Religious freedom. Groups like the Pilgrims sought escape from religious persecution in England. Colonies offered a chance to establish their own religious communities without fear of reprisal. But nothing comes without setbacks. The arrival of European colonists wasn't a fairy tale for the indigenous population. The relationship was often fraught with conflict, disease, European diseases, to which Native Americans had no immunity, devastated indigenous populations, loss of land. Colonization often meant the displacement of Native Americans from their ancestral lands, disrupting their way of life and sparking conflict. Differences in language, religion, and social customs created tensions between European colonists and indigenous populations. A stain on the empire. The brutal reality of the slave trade. The story of the British Empire is woven with threads of both progress and barbarity. This chapter confronts the horrific reality of Britain's participation in the transatlantic slave trade, a period that enriched some at the unimaginable cost of human lives. A web of exploitation. The triangular trade route, 16th–19th centuries. The transatlantic slave trade wasn't just a single voyage across the Atlantic. It was a brutal and efficient system known as the triangular trade route. Here's a breakdown of its gruesome mechanics. from Europe to Africa. Ships loaded with manufactured goods like textiles, guns, and alcohol left European ports like Liverpool and Bristol. These goods were then traded on the African coast for enslaved people. The Middle Passage's horrific journey across the Atlantic crammed hundreds of Africans into cramped, disease-ridden quarters. The mortality rate was staggering, with millions perishing from malnutrition, illness, and the brutality of the crew. From Africa to Americas, the surviving Africans were sold in the Americas to work on plantations, primarily cultivating sugar, tobacco, and cotton. These raw materials were then shipped back to Europe, completing the triangular route and enriching European economies. Profits and prosperity built on suffering. British ports, like Liverpool and Bristol, became key hubs in this trade, transforming into wealthy cities fueled by the profits of human misery. Shipbuilders, merchants, and plantation owners amassed vast fortunes, while the human cost of this enterprise was largely ignored. A rising tide of morality, the abolitionist movement. The horrors of the slave trade didn't go unnoticed forever. Throughout the 18th century, a growing abolitionist movement emerged, fueled by ethical and moral arguments against slavery. Key figures like William Wilberforce and Lord Equiano spoke out against the barbarity of the trade, highlighting the inhumanity of treating people as property. The core argument of abolitionists was that slavery was morally wrong and violated basic human rights. They also argued that free labor was more productive and efficient than forced labor. Many religious leaders condemned slavery on the grounds that all people were created equal in the eyes of God. Despite growing opposition, the slave trade remained immensely profitable for many powerful individuals in Britain. It took decades of tireless campaigning by the abolitionist movement, coupled with economic changes, before Parliament finally outlawed British participation in the slave trade in 1807. However, slavery itself wasn't abolished within the British Empire until 1833. Then there was a dance, not the type involving movement, but a dance of rivalry against France, as these two colossals fought for control of vast swaths of territory in North America and India, highlighting pivotal events that reshaped the geopolitical landscape. The 17th and 18th centuries witnessed a grand opera of European power struggles on the world stage. Across the Atlantic, Britain and France locked horns over dominance in North America. Both nations saw the continent as a source of wealth and strategic advantage. The French established settlements along the Mississippi River and in eastern Canada, aiming to control the fur trade and create a vast North American empire, often called New France. Meanwhile, the British colonists along the eastern seaboard pushed westward, competing with the French for territory and resources. Clash of Titans, the 7 Years' War, 1756 to 1763. This global conflict, also known as the French and Indian War in North America, pitted Britain against France for dominance in Europe, North America, and India. Two key events took place. 1. The rise of Prussia. The rise of Prussia under Frederick the Great challenged the existing European order, prompting France to ally with Austria to contain Prussian power. This alliance drew Britain into the conflict on Prussia's side. 2. The Treaty of Paris, 1763. The war ended with a decisive British victory. France ceded most of its North American possessions to Britain, effectively ending its dream of a vast North American empire. The jewel in the crown, Britain ascendant in India. While France's star waned in North America, Britain's fortunes rose dramatically in India. The Mughal Empire, the dominant power in India, was weakening, creating opportunities for European powers to intervene. The East India Company, a British trading company, was initially focused on trade with India. However, as the Mughal Empire weakened, the company saw an opportunity to expand its influence and military power. So, in the Battle of Plassey in 1757, a relatively small British force defeated a much larger Mughal army, marking a turning point, making the East India Company secured significant in political and economic concessions, laying the groundwork for eventual British dominance over much of India. The rivalry between Britain and France wasn't merely a territorial struggle. It was a clash of ideologies, economic ambitions, and the thirst for global power. The outcome, with Britain emerging victorious in North America and gaining a foothold in India, would have profound consequences for centuries to come. The map of the world was being redrawn, and the British Empire was fast becoming a major player on the global stage.